Welcome, everyone, to the Trust the Plan podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And Jim, last week I spent a little bit of time in New York going to JP Morgan, doing some due diligence on one of our top strategists.
Yeah, a little continuing education in there.
Yep, got a couple CE credits.
Good.
Also, got to meet a bunch of JP mutual fund ETF managers, analysts, and so on, and heard from like their chief economist and stuff like that. So we'll share a little bit here. But another fun thing, Jamie Dimon is the CEO and chairman of JP. So on Thursday night, after like all the sessions were over, we got to go up onto like the 40-some floor, and they have this whole lounge that like takes up the whole floor. So it's like huge, right? It's like a whole square block, pretty much.
Wow.
So they have this, they call it the partners lounge. So there's no partners anymore, but you get the idea, like probably like all the vice presidents. So they go up there, it's a whole restaurant, a whole lounge, huge bar, head to toe windows. And then one of the areas, one of the separate breakout rooms is called the chairman's dining room. So I go in there and it's like as big as my house. It's like this huge room with, like a boardroom set up, and it was kind of neat. The views were remarkable. And so anyway, Diamond wasn't there, but this guy, he's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, by far the largest bank, right, in the U.S. I don't know, maybe the world, I don't know. But, you think about people who can move the markets, people who everyone listens to.
Influential.
Very influential, yeah. So that was kind of fun. But, we got to meet, like I said, a bunch of the army of the CFAs that we talk about all the time, right?
It's always good to, get in their head, right? And you get a really good chance to do that when you see them one-on-one.
Yeah. So one of the overarching themes from JP is that they really are high on international. And so they tell us, and we see this as well, virtually everybody is underweight international.
Yeah.
When people bring us portfolios, sometimes they have no international. And the reason is that it's trailed for over a decade.
Yeah, it hasn't been one of the better classes, but when you believe in diversification, you believe you got to have some allocated there still.
Right. And this year, right, has been a great year for international. So, the S&P, I don't know, today is the 12th, so I don't know when this is going to be published, okay? But, the S&P is kind of close to break even for the year, whereas international is up double digits.
Yeah.
And so, they see that continuing.
Yeah, this has really been a good year to for us to believe in, and diversification. It's really proven to be the way to go.
Well, that's enough for the investing part. We also talked with them, and Chase, right, is the largest bank in the U.S. They have all of this data, right, of all of the spending that people do. They have all the credit cards. So they see the checking accounts, they see the credit cards. They know everything about you and your cohort.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay? It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So they have this big data, and they can just tell you, and they can sort it and tell you what they find, okay? So they're telling us, households, with 250 to 750,000 of investable wealth, they're telling us they see people spending less as they age. And we talk about this all the time in our meetings, where when you're newly retired, right, you are in your go-go years.
Yeah.
Right? Go-go years. So here they're saying that it's going to be 75,000, and maybe that's, the mean. Don't worry about it if your number is different, but this is just big data, okay? But look at the trend here. Every 5 years, right, the spending is going down by about 5,000 a year.
5,000,
Yeah. And so we have our go-go years. And then, we get to be maybe 70, 75. We start spending a little bit less. What do we call that?
Slow go years. You're not playing golf as much. You're not traveling as much. You're not taking as many trips.
Yep.
That's what this chart's really representing well.
And then we get into, age 85 and beyond, and it kind of flattens out, right? Because we're not doing as much stuff, but we still have our fixed expenses, right?
Yeah.
Basically, all of our discretionary expenses have been declining over the years, whereas medical expenses typically are the only thing that's increasing for us when we get into that age range. So, if your numbers look different, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But one thing that I want to talk about when we do our financial planning is how we do not follow this. I believe this is true, but it's impossible to model for you because we don't know when you're going to go into the slow-go years. We don't know when or if you will be entering the no-go years. We don't know how long you're going to live, and we always talk about how we put together these financial plans as conservative as possible with low expectation for returns, reasonable inflation, higher spending. And we also worry about people telling us that they spend less than they actually do. This happens all the time where they say, yeah, I spend $75,000. So our approach when it comes to expenses in retirement is to actually start with that $75,000 in this couple's case and increase with inflation forever because we don't know when the slow go and no go will occur.
Yeah, we just think it's a best practice to be conservative. We talk about being conservative a lot through, like you said, investment returns and everything, but cost of living is another place that we don't want to be wrong, because it's probably the biggest variable when we do retirement planning. If we adjust it, cost of living up or down, it will dramatically change the way the plan looks.
It will. And so I'd rather be conservative and be cautious, like you said.
Yeah.
So here's another thing, okay? Likelihood of success after 35 years in retirement. So this depends on your risk level, and it depends on your withdrawal rate, and it depends on how old you are when you start. So we have these three variables on this one chart, which I think is amazing. So let's use the 60-40 because that's where the biggest cohort of people are in a balanced portfolio, 60% equity, 40% fixed income. So let's focus on this column here. And the way that we interpret this data is that if we are 60-40 and we have an initial withdrawal rate of 1%, the money should last until, or we should have a 95% probability of success. Okay? Makes sense.
Yeah.
Low withdrawal, we should be able to, if you're taking out 1%, that's 35% over your whole life.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so no brainer. So where do we get into the worry zone? Okay, so if all of our money is in cash and we're taking out 4%, well, right now, if you're watching Twitter, you should retire at 35 and do that. Okay, but what happens when rates go down? Okay, what happens when money markets pay 1%?
Yeah.
Now you're in real trouble. Okay, so obviously this has a low probability of success, but a 4% withdrawal with a 60-40 portfolio gives us an 85 to 90% probability of success in a 35-year retirement. Now, the academic studies are always talking about a 25-year retirement. Think age 65 to 90, okay? So traditional retirement age beyond life expectancy. But we know that there's a probability that one of us will be alive at 90, like a 50% probability. Right. So we cannot just say 90 and out, right? We have to be accounting for that. So what happens if we take out more than 4%? Guys, the reason why we harp on this is because this data is right, okay? If you're taking out let's say you're taking out 6% and your portfolio is balanced, you have a less than 50% probability of making it 35 years. This is why when you're taking out more than 4%, we highlight that for you. And sometimes we have to be the bad cop.
Yeah, I think the other thing that stands out a little bit on the chart is, there's a mindset that I'm retired, now I got to make my money all safe, right? Well, this is where we're living if we're living in the safe world, right? And you can see that the withdrawal rates, when they start getting high, especially over that 4% mark, it's really devastating to what a portfolio does. So, this kind of takes me back to our income conductor where we talk about segmenting the money, making sure the money we need is safe, but making sure that we're still investing and trying to grow other parts of the portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And so, this medium confidence range, right? Be careful if you're taking out 4%, but not invested properly, or taking out more than 4% at all, right? At anywhere. So I thought this is a really important slide that they shared with us, and I wanted to share it with you. So if you are retired and you're making a withdrawal from your portfolio and you want to understand where you fall on a chart like this, we can give you a second opinion. Reach out to us at peakwm.com.